Hello Stratters, welcome back to our regular video this week. As I warned, our schedule might get thrown off by special videos like our discussion video yesterday. Uh, if this gets all planned out right, this should be coming out Saturday, and then probably going to see another episode of this Sunday, so kinda keeping to our regular schedule. Uh, but we won't have to worry about an special video unless they come out with some kind of full spoiler list for Ixalan or whatever the name of the set is. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. But I don't think we're going to get a full spoiler list for that anytime too soon. So we will plan on getting back to our regular schedule. Most likely going to try to get into some Pauper next week. But I can never say for sure because I think you guys have seen my schedule has been a little bit weird as I'm trying to get used to this new one. As soon as I agreed to do some extra videos, then some things started coming up in life, but things are starting to settle down a little bit, so I think we are ready to really lock into this new schedule. So I'm very excited about that. I hope you guys are. And we are in Commander this week, and I hope you guys are excited about that. Doing something a little bit different from Sidisi. This week, we ask the immortal question. Let me pull up my, where is it? Going to pull up the preview pane so that we can see him in all of his glory. We ask the eternal question, what's a king to a god? And what's a god to a non-believer? Well, I think he's a really strong card. I'm sorry, guys. I just love that album so much. I don't know whether you guys are Jay-Z and Kanye fans, but I know I am. I love that album, Watch the Throne. But anyway, in all seriousness, we're going to be playing the Locust God this week. So yes, we are playing another degenerate combo deck here. I am going to try to cut down on the combo decks because I know they're not for everybody. But I think you guys can tell by now I'm kind of a fan of them. Seeing as most of the decks that I've played on the channel have been. I just think they're kind of interesting. A lot of them are goofy, and so they're a little bit more fun to show off, but we're going to try to get into some more mid-range stuff that I've been looking at, but just before that, I want to get in with the Locust God here. So before we get out of Amonkhet and into Ixalan, or we're just going to go with Ixalan for right now, and into the new commander sets, before Hour of Devastation starts to leave our minds, let's try to use what I think is the best commander out of Hour of Devastation. You could make some arguments for the Scarab God, but I think the Locust God, as far as raw power, outperforms him. But as all combo decks go, raw power eventually leads to the table turning on you and your combo being shut off. And once your combo gets shut off, you run into problems. The immortal problem with combo decks that I am well aware of. So that, I think, is the reason why the Locust God has kind of died off in popularity. He was very hyped up whenever Hour of Devastation came out, but I think people realized that combo decks all have that same problem. But we're going to try to get around that problem and have some fun with the Locust God today. So this is actually pretty close to the build I played for the tournament that I talked about recently. Few minor changes because I already spent the money on it in paper. I didn't want to spend too much money online. But I do love this deck. I absolutely adore it. So I did want to build it on here for you guys. So it is a little bit different to keep it cheaper, because I know that a lot of you guys like to see budget-friendly decks, and I like to have budget-friendly decks. So this one's a little bit more on the pricier end, but there's definitely some substitutions you can make to keep it a little bit cheaper. Some of the cards were surprisingly cheap, and some of the ones were more expensive than I thought they would be. So it was kind of weird. I'm still getting used to online prices. But anyway, jumping right into it, we're not going to go through the whole 99. We already had an hour and a half video this week, over an hour and a half. So if you guys stuck with it all the way to the end, I'm really appreciative of that. But let's try to not make this one an hour and a half. So we're just going to go over the main combo pieces. If you don't know what the Locust God does, whenever you draw a card, he creates a 1/1 blue and red insect creature token with flying and haste. He has a 4 mana draw a card, discard a card. This is a really bad ability. It's just very weak. 4 mana to loot a card is really terrible in my opinion. You only are going to use this as an absolute last resort. And when he dies, he returns to your hand at the beginning of your next end step. I never like to risk putting a commander in my hand, so I'm always going to let him go to the command zone. If you guys want to risk it, that's up to you, but that's a little bit too risky for my taste. So jumping on to how we're going to win the game. As you can see, I have 14 cards pulled out as our ways to win the game because I love decks that have multiple ways to win. So let's go over the basic combo. And so we have the Ashnod's Altar Skull Clamp combo. I think everybody's at least somewhat familiar with this. It's in a lot of token decks, but this one has the advantage of essentially fueling itself, because whenever we draw cards, we're going to get another 1/1 insect. So we sack one, get the mana to equip the other one. We draw 2 cards, so we make 2 more insect tokens. So we keep repeating this, but because we don't have to sacrifice another one to Ashnod's Altar because we have 1 mana left over, we can start to generate extra mana and generate extra locusts. So you can start creating 1 extra locust for every card in your deck. And in Commander, in a format where you have 99 cards in your deck, that can generate a lot of insects. And the fact that they have haste is what makes this card so dangerous. If they didn't have haste, this would be an okay card. But the fact that they have haste is just so ridiculous. The fact that you can make all of these and your opponent doesn't have an opportunity to Wrath of God or Damnation, they're going to have to overload Psych Rift. Pretty much their only real option to deal with this that's played in the format. So that to me is what makes this card ridiculous. So we're going to make a ton of them, and there's obviously a few ways to win with this that I have listed. My biggest problem with my combo decks is I see a combo and most people would look at it and say, okay, this is as far as you have to go with the combo to win. I am never satisfied with that. I want to make it absolutely insane. So Ashnod's Altar and Skull Clamp only work as long as you're still able to draw cards. And eventually we will not be able to do that anymore. Unless we take all of that colorless mana and we can cast a little guy named Ulamog the Infinite Gyre. He's quite annoying. So we're going to cast him and then sack him with Ashnod's Altar to get more mana. He goes and shuffles your discard back in, including himself. So at least a few times we can draw him again and cast him, but we are going to get to the point to where we're not generating enough extra mana because we're not drawing cards anymore. Well, not drawing cards in a huge amount. So it is going to be a problem, and we won't be able to continuously cast him. So that little trick is not going to work. We're going to eventually have to get him out of our hand, and that's where Aquamoeba comes into play. Aquamoeba, chances are you have not seen this card. There are a few decks that use it as a discard outlet, but overall, this is a card that doesn't see much play. So it simply just has discard a card, switch Aquamoeba's power and toughness until end of turn. We are not planning on beating our opponent down with a 3-1 Aquamoeba. We just want to discard that Ulamog repeatedly and draw again. Now, the important thing to remember about Skull Clamp is that it draws 2. So if Ulamog is the only card in your deck, you are going to draw over and lose the game. So you are going to need to discard another card with Aquamoeba, discard it, shuffle it in, and draw it. So that's a very important thing to remember, or else you might deck yourself out and lose. But another way that we can win in this deck is to deck ourselves out and win with Lab Maniac. So that's one of our other options, but as you can see, we have quite a few more. So as we're drawing all these cards, we could just legitimately burn our opponents out with cards like Niv Mizzix. Where all do we have them? Niv Mizzix and Psychosis Crawler. They're each going to burn every time we draw a card. As those tons of tokens are entering the battlefield, we can win with enter the battlefield triggers like Impact Tremors, Perforos, and Alter the Brood. We can actually mill our opponent out, and this works more than you'd think it does. I was surprised at just how many times I mill an opponent out with Alter the Brood. So never leave this card out of the running. A lot of people don't really think that it has that much potential in this deck, but it can completely devastate an opponent if they don't have Graveyard Recursion, and potentially just win the game. Another way to win is just to hit our opponent with a ton of locusts. And so if we need to make those locusts a little bit bigger, or if our opponent has like a propaganda out and we can only really get in with 1 or 2 of them, we need to make them a little bit bigger than 1/1s. So if we have a ton of them on board, Coat of Arms does a lot of work for us. It's not difficult to have 39s out on the board with Flying and Haste with Coat of Arms out. Important to remember though, you want to have your combo set up before you put out Coat of Arms, because that's going to prevent Skull Clamp from killing off your insects. So you're going to have to sack them with Ashnod's Altar, so you just want to keep that in mind. Another way that you can win is just to blast your opponent with cards like Karavek's Torch and Banefire. Generate a ton of tokens, sack them all to Ashnod's Altar, and burn your opponent for a ridiculous amount of mana. Damage that you're getting from all of that tons of mana that you're using for X. Another way to generate all of that mana would be Mana Echoes. Once you start getting, 20 tokens out on the board and you're getting more and more of them hitting the board, you can generate thousands of colorless mana. I have legitimately gotten to 2,000 colorless mana. It's not that difficult. And another thing that you can do with all of that colorless mana, cast Stroke of Genius, targeting your opponent, and deck them out. So a very simple way to win. So we have options, guys. There's a few ways to win in this deck, and that's one of the things that I love about it. This deck is a blast to play, especially if you like drawing cards. If you like having a hand of 56 cards, which you do pretty regularly in this deck. I mean, I had 56 cards in hand and like 12 cards left in my deck. Like, it's a ridiculous deck. Like I said, you can just take this deck to a point where it doesn't need to be, and that's my favorite thing about it. It's just completely over the top, completely crazy, plenty of ways to win, everything that I love. Doesn't always work perfectly. There's definitely more streamlined builds that aren't as janky as mine, trying to do a lot of over-the-top things, but here in my episodes at least, I like to do pretty wacky things. So I think this is the build that fits me and fits the dynamic of the show. So let's go with it. So the deck list will be linked so that you guys can see all of the cards that are in this deck. I'll kind of scroll down if you guys want to just pause the video and look at it, but I will have the deck list linked. So with all of that said, I'm very much looking forward to playing this deck, guys, and I will see you in the games. Alright guys, playing some Locust God. We're gonna go first. We're playing against Unesh. Okay, cool. I've been wanting to play this deck. Alright, so I'm excited now. But we're gonna have to mulligan this. Only one land, and it didn't do anything for us. This hand looks better. It's not great, but I think it's fine. So yeah, if you haven't seen this guy, he's so cool. So he reduces the casting cost for Sphinxes by 2. And then he basically, every time you cast a Sphinx, he... what is the card that he is? I'm gonna play... Oh man, I clicked the wrong land. Oh my god. I'm so dumb. I meant to click Sulphur Falls. Jeez, man. Oh god, that is so dumb of me. Oh, this guy probably thinks I'm a scrub. I pretty much am. That's probably the dumbest thing I've ever done in Magic. I've only been playing this game for 3 years. But so he factor fictions whenever you cast a Sphinx. So basically, he's going to try to shut me off from drawing. Meanwhile, he's going to factor fiction himself every turn, casting Sphinxes, so that he still gets card draw. Is the plan. I'm slightly salty to see that he has Momer Vig as his little avatar-y thing. I know it seems like I talk about the avatar thing every single game that I play. We could preordain, but I want to play Ruby Medallion. I'll go ahead and get some cost reduction into play. But I just played against a Momer Vig, and it was a slightly frustrating game. I don't think I'm going to have this one. I don't think I'm putting that one up. I recorded it, but it was just a really boring game, and it was just back and forth. Nobody really, I don't think he had any fun. I didn't have any fun. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. I am perfectly fine with showing you guys games where I lose. I actually won that game. It's just like I want you guys to see when the deck functions and does what it's supposed to do. We're actually going to put both of these on bottom. Neither of them really do anything for us. Interfire, kind of mad to draw right now. So we're going to put our Boiler Works into play and actually use it correctly this time. Bounce this island and pass the turn. But I like to show you guys games where you can learn about the deck, see how it plays, and see people having fun playing Magic. This Vendalken Shackles is not really a fun card. So basically, he's going to gain control of my creatures as long as they have power less than the number of islands he controls. And considering that he's mono blue, I would assume that Vendalken Shackles will be able to steal my creatures very quickly. If he puts one more island into play, he can steal Locust God. And I cannot put Locust God into the command zone if he's holding on to it. So I will lose it until I can figure out a way to remove the Vendalken Shackles. And I don't really have a lot of options to do that, unfortunately. It pretty much comes down to Psych Rift, in all honesty. So, Curator comes down, and whenever you cycle or discard another card, scry 1, and he does have cycling, but it looks like we're not going to be doing that. Okay, so we have a Mystical Tutor, which means that we can actually fetch a Psych Rift. But we need to be in position to win the game whenever we do that. Trying to figure out. So we could cast Inner Fire there. We'd have one blue available. And we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that casts Locust God. And then he's going to use Vendalken Shackles. The problem is, alright, so this is how we're going to do it, and this is taking a massive risk. So don't try this at home, kids. So we're going to tap for a blue here. We're going to cast Locust God. We'll have 1 red left over, because we are reducing his cost by 1. We won't be able to do anything with that red, so we're going to have to let it pass out. So now, essentially, what I expect him to do is to take it with Vendalken Shackles. Probably thinking, oh, this guy bounced his Boiler Works back. He's played right into my trap. I'm going to take his Locust God. At which time, I am going to tutor for my Cyclonic Rift. I'm going to bounce the Vendalken Shackles, and I'm going to leave an Arcane Denial up and available. And kill off those Vendalken Shackles whenever he attempts to cast them. That is the plan. So, we have Vexing Sphinx, cumulative upkeep, discard a card when Vexing Shackle dies, draw a card for each age counter on it. So that synergizes pretty well with Curator. Okay, so we're going to have to do it on his end step. Let's not tap it that way. Let's just use the Boiler Works now. And we will tutor on his end step, get the Psych Rift. We're taking the biggest risk. And like I said, I don't recommend playing this way, playing loose and fast. So he lets the Vexing Sphinx go. He is not going to pay its cumulative upkeep. Interesting. I guess he must have a hand that he's really fond of. Or maybe I'm just missing the point of playing it. Could be. I've been thinking about playing this on the channel. Playing this deck. Because it's very cool. I mean, I think that Sphinxes are one of the coolest cards in the game. So this negate is a problem. That slightly interrupts our special strategy. So let's move this to the second pile, move this to the second pile. And he will make his decision. As I said, whenever he or another Sphinx enters, they factor fiction, essentially. So which did he take? Took the negate, as I suspected. Not like I'm some sort of detective or anything, just I think it was pretty obvious. So So we're not going to be able to block this. We're going to take a good bit of damage here, but nothing too bad. We are now taking commander damage from our own commander, which is always exciting. So let's grab a Cyclonic Rift. That's not it. That's not it. You can barely see these cards. Alright, Cyclonic Rift. I'm always worried that I'm going to get the wrong thing. So I wish I could overload it. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Actually can. But that puts Locust God into my hand. So now that's... Ooh, I know what we can do. Alright, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we can do it. Alright, so what we're going to do, we're going to bounce those nasty shackles. And we're going to reforge a soul. Sounds fun to me. Those nasty shackles will go away. We will get our Locust God back. And we are going to make a lot of tokens now. So that sounds quite spicy to me. Unfortunately, he is going to be able to scry a lot. But essentially, I mean, once he finds the card that he wants, I'm assuming he's going to leave it on top. So we're going to say yes to Locust God whenever we get the chance to. So in the meantime, let's look at what we've got. We do have a counter spell. It's not a great one, but we do have the mana to cast it. That is the only thing that we have the mana to cast currently. We already played a land this turn. So I think we're going to hold that mana open. We could cast Pyromancer, but, I mean, not really going to do anything for us right now. So, how many... I don't think we should attack at this point. I think we should hold back. The Vandalkin Shackles is out of the way now. That was my biggest concern. Because that would severely limit our ability to play the game. That's one of the disadvantages of playing decks that are just solely built around your commander, which is decks that I usually play. So we had several things in hand, so we did get to get rid of a few things. That... So if I force him to pay for it, he'll have to pay 2. That leaves 4 mana open, which means that he has 8 mana. That's still a lot that he can do with High Tide. I may regret leaving that open, but for right now I think it's the better play. Okay, so that's not the super scary one, but he does get to Factor Fiction. So Incubator is good for him. Factor Fiction is good for him. So that's the Chancellor for blue. What does it do while it's out on the board? There's a battlefield. You may cast target instant or sorcery from an opponent's graveyard without paying its mana cost. So that's a Psych Rift. So I'm gonna try to tempt him into not taking the Chancellor. If he pays it without paying its mana cost, I don't think he can overload it, if I remember right. Sky Diamond is pretty weak for him right now. I don't think he would be really prioritizing to play it this turn. Fact or fiction, always good, but if he has Sphinxes, he's probably going to keep playing them. Urza's Incubator, he's probably going to put out. So in an effort to keep him, I really can't afford for him to start bouncing things. I mean, that's big. Oh, and we have Mystical Tutor in there too, which means he can go get his own and overload it. He can't overload it this turn. Alright, let's just go with that. And we'll see. So he picks the Fact or Fiction and Urza's Incubator. Urza's Incubator is good for him, but it's... I mean, he's already reducing it by 2. It's kind of like... I mean, most of them are going to be like 3 cost on top of their blue, if I remember right. But he currently has some of the more expensive ones out. And I mean, at this point he has High Tide, like he's going to cast his hand. So, enters the battlefield, reveal the top 5 cards of your library. An opponent separates those cards into 2 piles. Okay, so he Fact or Fictions himself, and then, okay, so he's double Fact or Fictioning. Gosh, that High Tide. But I mean, do you guys, I guess I can't really actively see it, but I mean, do you guys understand where I was coming from? If I countered it, he can pay for it, and he still has 8 mana open, essentially. So his Fact or Fiction is for 5. Okay, so he would need to pay. He actually can't pay for Cage Sun at this point. So let's put that on the second pile. Next turn, if he plays it, then we could be in some trouble. So whenever it comes untapped, land card, you may put it onto the battlefield. I don't know, I think that would be... Let's put the Swiftfoot Boots down there as well. And this guy. I don't know, this is tough because I don't really know where his strategy is going. I would say he can cast 2 Sphinxes at this point. Well, I don't even realize he's at 2 mana basically now. I thought he was at 4. So yeah, he is pretty limited now. So he lets go of the 2 Sphinxes. I don't want him to have Disallow. I really don't want him to have Imprison the Moon. It's another card that can take my commander away from me permanently. That's why Imprison in the Moon is so good. Let's put that. I don't want him to have Disallow and Imprison in the Moon. I actually think that I'm going to switch. Let's switch these out. I don't know, that's a tough one. So he takes the Imprison in the Moon and Island. Casts Swiftfoot Boots. And looks like he's out of it now. I can block everything perfectly fine. I forgot to hit the continue there. I could kill that. He's getting ready to discard 2 cards. I always want to block there. I'm taking a lot of damage this turn, is the problem. I have Keep Watch in hand, and that's probably why I'm not going to kill it, because I'd like to have plenty of things to swing with, so that Keep Watch is more effective. So unfortunately not going to be killing it this turn as much as I'd like to. I really want to play Is It Charm on the end step for the draw ability. But at the same time, I want to keep it. Let's just play it. Because it's essentially my only counterspell, but it's not a great counterspell against him because his cards are being reduced so much. Okay, so Trophy Mage might be too slow here. Another card that's too slow here is Niv Mizzet and Young Pyromancer. Gosh, this is tense. I think we have to win this turn. And I'm not quite sure how we're going to do that. I feel pretty confident that we can draw a lot of cards this turn. And that's what we're supposed to do with this deck. So let's cast Brainstorm. Brainstorm is very good. We're going to get 3 draws off of it. Battle Hymn, Perforos. We'll put Lab Maniac back. And Blue Sun Zenith back. So we have 4, 5, 6, 7 mana to work with. And with our Battle Hymn reducing cost. So we're going to add that mana. Trophy Mage. CMC 3. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to cast Archive. We're going to use the Sphinxes Archive against the Sphinxes. Cast Perforos. Guess I should click here for safety purposes. I need 3 mana to cast Keep Watch. So I can play this island, tap there, and play Trophy Mage, and search for Ashnod's Altar. Perforos triggers, deal 2 damage. I think we can do this, guys. Because basically, I'm going to Keep Watch, draw 10 cards. It'll be doubled by Alhemeritz. 20 cards will hit the board. Perforos will burn for 40. That's the plan. He doesn't have any mana open. Oh, I have to click that. So I feel pretty confident, guys. I hope you guys have confidence in me. I know you're watching this after it's happening. But, you know, be with me as we do this. So I'm going to go ahead and cast Ashnods here. Just in case. We're going to let that mana pass out. And we're going to go to attack step. Sometimes it lets me declare like the whole pile attacking, and sometimes it doesn't. I don't know why. So we're going to declare attackers, and then we're going to move to cast Keep Watch. Keep Watch is just a very powerful card. We're going to always yield. So these are all going to enter. These are going to burn every time, and that is game, guys. We still had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more to enter, which would have been 12 more damage. So we were in a very solid position. That gave us 20 more insects because they're being doubled by Alheimer's Archive. I guess I should have pointed out, if you don't know what Alheimer's Archive does, if whenever you draw a card, if it's not the first card that you draw 2 cards. And if you would gain life, you gain double that much life. So that's what we used to double those. It was a very clutch turn. Perforos doing the burn work. We got Trophy Mage out. Trophy Mage didn't really do anything for us, but still very nice. Still very nice. And you can look and see just what a great hand we would have had after this. I mean, just look at that. Look at that, man. So this is how Locust God wins the game, guys. And we wouldn't even had to discard this because of Thought Vessel. So, I mean, that's as good as it gets, guys. I mean, I've done better with that, but that was clutch. We were definitely in hard times. We also got to see how well the Sphinx deck works, which is really exciting. And I already thought about building it. So if that's something you guys want to see, because you saw just how cool it is, if you like Fact or Fiction, you'll like that deck. So it was very cool. I enjoyed it. I hope you guys did as well. We will be back tomorrow since our schedule is mixed up. This is going to be a Saturday and Sunday video. So I hope you guys are okay with that. Sorry these are coming in late, but I wanted to do the discussion video, and I hope you guys check that out. I know it's a long one, but I had a lot of fun doing it, and I hope you guys have fun watching it. Maybe listen to it in the car or something. I think it's like an hour and a half long, but I go through all the cards, all the new cards, as well as the reprints that are in the Commander 17 sets. They come out August 28th, I want to say, or 27th, somewhere around that. So let me know what you think about those. Whenever they come out, I'm definitely going to be using at least one of them for a video, so let me know which ones you're excited to see. Maybe I can get like a straw poll going or something to see which ones we actually use. We'll vote on it. However it works for you guys. Remember to like and subscribe on the videos. I know that sounds played out, but I really do think that we make pretty good quality videos here at the channel. Not just me, but several other creators, so you definitely want to check them out and don't miss any of the videos, so subscribe for sure. And remember, if you guys want to play me on Moto, I'm not on a lot, but I am on when I'm recording the videos, so Thursday and the weekends. So be sure to add me. It's CreepEvee, just like it's spelled. I think you guys have seen it on during the games, but just like my YouTube handle. Just in lowercase. So be sure to add me, and maybe we can get some games in. And if you let me know if you want to be recorded, then we can do that. If you don't want to, just let me know, and we can have some games for fun. You guys have been great to me, so I love interacting with you guys. So be sure to do that, and I hope to see you guys on there. And I hope to see you guys in the comments, letting me know what you think, what decks you want to see next. I'm very excited to keep going and keep improving, so give me your feedback. I love it all, positive or negative. And so I will see you guys next week. I'm finally done yammering on and on and on. I'll see you guys. Have a great day. CreepEvee signing out.